Might go pick us up. Good morning.
Morning.
Is it Thursday already? I am smiling here. And how can I not be smiling? Because look who's standing next to me.
Oh, shucks.
What's going on, Victoria?
Oh, just happy to be here. It's really cool how this is my first time on a podcast. So it's really exciting. I'm excited to have a conversation and see what topics get brought up. So happy to be here.
Yeah. And I love that. And thank you all for getting on Facebook and, of course, LinkedIn and YouTube. I appreciate you very much. It's super cool that you guys are all here. And, I noticed something here. I don't know whose is. Oh, yeah, that's me. There we go. I changed my picture. So, yeah, thank you all again for being on Facebook. We love you on YouTube. And you know that now we are on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. So that's always good for the replay. And Victoria brought us something that was really cool because we don't really know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And we've met a few times. We'll talk about that. But I was thinking this morning how when I don't really know somebody and I don't have any preconceived notions.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover.
Yeah, there's a lot to cover. There's no expectations, right? I don't even know where she's from, where she grew up. I know almost nothing about her. But what I do know is that I met her a few times and we spoke and there was a good vibe. And when I get a good vibe in my gut about someone, she seemed interesting. I liked her Instagram posts. And from there, it was just you know what? Why don't you just come on the live stream and we'll jam on what you do?
Yeah, that was cool.
That was a
good transition.
Yeah. So thank you again for everybody joining. And if you are in the Chicago area, winter has finally hit.
Yeah. Happy Halloween on that one. Surprise blizzard.
Yeah. Happy Halloween is right. It was kind of funny. I was upstairs and I have a coffee shop downstairs. It's all
nice.
These windows. So when it started snowing, I ran downstairs because it was like a snow globe. And I'm there
that's a vibe.
This is so great. And people are just looking at me. I'm like, snow, it's cool. This is really fun. So yeah, if you're in the Chicago area, winter's finally here. And what a great time. November is a great time to give thanks. There's so much to be grateful for. You know that we always get into gratitude on the Live Beyond Default Livestream. And I hope everybody's week has been well. So Victoria has one thing to say about traffic.
Oh, it's alive and well. For those who work remotely, and we don't get out into the traffic very often, it's I don't know how people do it. I give you many kudos to those who brace the traffic every morning because it's unpredictable. And then the random little bursts of road rage, you just forget people do that every morning. So it's keeps you on your toes.
Yeah, it does. And think about it, how, a lot of people really do have to drive in traffic every single day.
Every day. I know some people who do it sometimes they're in traffic for 2 hours or hours.
Yeah.
It really just fluctuates because of traffic. Yeah.
And we can understand why that people do get road rage and people will be upset at times. I mean, being on that road every day. But, that was one thing that I liked after getting out of my previous career was not having to take the same road to the same place almost every day.
Yeah.
There was just something about that. So, hey, kudos to everyone that's even working, okay? Because a lot of people aren't even showing up to work. So I super appreciate when people are even coming to work and, doing their job, if that's even what we want to call it.
Yep.
But she did her best. And talk about being a trooper. She drove all the way up here. Where do you live?
Northern Plainfield. So it was about an hour and 15 minutes drive here.
Northern Plainfield, an hour and 15 minutes. Think about that drive.
Yeah, without traffic, 50 minutes. So that's a surprise.
Yeah, that's a pretty big difference.
But it wasn't too bad.
Yeah.
For what it was worth.
Well, thank you.
You're so welcome.
I appreciate that very much. Yeah. So again, thank you all for coming on, and we are going to get going here. We're making sure that the cameras are all set up. We're sitting here. Very good. Yeah. All right. And we always like to start off with a quote. as you know. Victoria, do you want to read it or do you want me to read it?
Sure, I'll read it. So the quote is, "Hard times arouse an instinctive desire for authenticity," by Coco Chanel.
Yes. And on that note, welcome to this episode of Live Beyond Default Livestream. It's your weekly dose of personal growth. My name is Dave. I'm your host. This is Victoria. And we are here on episode number 56. You're going to love the collaboration. You're going to love the conversation. And you're going to love the fun with purpose that we have on Live Beyond Default Livestream. And if you're watching or listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, thank you so much. Now, this is another one where you're going to want to take out that notebook and you're going to want to take some notes. Reason being is the people who listen to the show, you're growth minded, we're self-aware, and we're always leaving the vibe better than we found it. And we're going to get some nuggets today.
It's going to be interesting, especially because unless you've seen what my title is on LinkedIn, you might be surprised of what we might be covering today. It's a little different than your usual authenticity podcast. I'm sure it'll be a little extra today.
Oh, and I am grateful that you said that, because we're all about being chill here. We're all about really just putting it out there, right? Because we're all people and we're all doing the best we can with what we have at this time. And we know it's a judgment-free zone. So we're going to talk about a lot of cool things. So
and then it also is episode 58.
Episode 58. What did I say? Did I not say that? Oh, I said 56. Well, thank you. I'm glad somebody knows what episode this is. Hello.
Gotta give kudos where there is. 58. That's a lot of podcasts.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. All right. So I always ask this question. If your week has not been epic so far, why not? And if it's not been epic so far, it's time to take responsibility for your thoughts, for your actions, for your words, because we don't want to blame anything on what's going on around outside of us, right?
Yeah, that's
we
so
don't
true.
We don't blame politics. We don't blame Bitcoin or real estate or interest rates or gas prices or our employer or our significant other or our husband or our wife. We don't blame anybody else for what's going on in our lives. It's all about taking self-responsibility.
Absolutely.
It's all about recognizing that what we have within inside of us is everything that we need, and we're doing the best we can. So instead of blaming other people or other things, let's just take responsibility. And moving forward, we're going to raise up that energy for the rest of the weekend. And we're going to share that love with everybody else that we come in contact with.
Yeah.
We have a saying here. We like to leave the vibe better than we found it. And that's one thing I liked about Victoria is every time I saw her and spoke with her, I walked away and I was like, she's pretty cool. I got a good vibe after her. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. I felt the same way too.
Yeah, awesome. All right. So we always like to start with gratitude. First of all, I see Brandon on there. Thank you, Brandon, for joining on LinkedIn. We've got Yvezer Andrew on YouTube. Thanks for always showing up. I'm really forward to what you both have in store for us today. Awesome. And we have Nate Rubin from the Much Love Podcast. Good morning, Dave and Victoria. Yeah. Thanks, Nate. Appreciate you all being here. All right. So let's start with a little bit of gratitude. It's always wonderful to begin the day and to end the day with gratitude. And if you didn't write in your gratitude journal this morning, well, now's the time to express it to everyone. So throw it in the chat. Anything that you're grateful for could be 1, 2, or 3 things. You want to start or you want me to?
I can start. I actually wrote more than a few things, but I'll be real quick about it.
Okay,
because I'm grateful for a lot of things in my life. I would like to definitely give my husband a shout out. He is my best friend, maximum friendship. That's us. I'm so happy to have him in my life. We've been together for over 7 years. We met in 2016, and we're always constantly sharing our story and how we met, and pretty much we just hung out and never stopped. Essentially, we just been having so much fun, and I just love my husband very much. And then my family, who is supportive of my business and everything. So my family is super supportive and super happy for me, as well as my friends. Everyone's the same thing. The love and support from friends and family just means the world. And then the communities that I'm a part of, which is just various communities to be, and everyone is just wonderful in that community, whether it's at the networking events or the kind of hobbies that I'm into. Just the community is so fantastic. And then all the connections that I made through networking and the programs. that are catered. Well, this is just a general one, I guess, as recent in my life. It's just like programs that cater to veterans and the new business owners. I'm super grateful for all of those programs. I definitely, I reach into them, and it's just phenomenal. Like the volunteers and the kindness from volunteers from. Sorry, I'm like rambling.
No, you're not rambling at all. We're going to talk more about that too. Any more?
Yeah.
That's more
And
than
then,
3.
I know. And then just opportunities, and then overall just being the well-being and being healthy. So yeah, lots of things to be grateful for always, every day.
We're showered with
There's a
gratitude.
little bit of everything.
We're showered with gratitude. I love that. Keep a look in there where you are. Okay, cool. All right. So few things that I'm grateful for is, number one, I'm grateful for the self-reflection that I've had this week. You know, it's not easy to be self-reflective.
It's a lot of inner work.
It's a lot of inner work. It's like that big pill of self-understanding. That's a tough one to swallow. So I've had a lot of that this week, and that's been really good. And I also appreciate the clients that have really brought me a lot of trust and opportunities to collaborate with them, just more and more as the year runs down. And, you know, I'm going to say something that I remember back from when I was a kid, like 3rd grade.
Ooh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Story time.
I think I get so excited about the snow because when I was in 3rd grade, there was this girl in class, and her name was Kellyanne, and she was from Florida. And when it started snowing, she ran up to the window and she's like, "Oh, it's snow, it's snow." And we were all like, huh, like, what's the big deal about snow? And she turns around, she goes, "I've never seen snow in my life." And I will always remember Kellyanne in 3rd grade saying that. And like a couple days ago, it was such a good memory again. So it seems like every time it snows, at least for the first time of the year, the first few times, I'm like Kellyanne.
Yeah.
And I'm like running to the window. I'm like, this is so cool. Look at this. So yeah, wherever you are, Kellyanne, I wanted to thank you for that wonderful memory. Like that memory of the first time snow is just so cool. So thank you so much. Tiaja says, good morning. She's grateful for Nate Rubin, her great sense of humor. Yes, I like that. And her health. Tiaja, you rock. Thanks for being on. And Key Renter Northwest, that's Tony. He says, grateful for my kids, family, and loved ones. Thankful for my business, clients, professional partners, and friends like Dave.
No.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Matthew Rosen says, great snow story. Yeah, we got a lot of stories here, and we're going to just keep bringing them on because we're just barely even diving in. So before we get into anything, I just want to remind everyone to save the date. That's Thursday, February 8th is the next episode, the next half-day summit of Break the Mold, personal and professional development. So it's going to be a half-day summit with myself and Carolyn and Scotty and Alan and Tom, and we're doing it at the Lowe's Hotel in Rosemont, Illinois. So if you're coming from out of state, you could fly right into the O'Hare Airport, and it's right down the block. But yeah, we've got an awesome networking event afterwards with a couple networking groups coming in from the city. So it's going to be like a city and suburban vibe sort of thing. Yeah, I'm really excited about that. And so that's Thursday, February 8th. Save the date, 2024. It's going to be from 10 to, I think it's 11 till 4. And then we're going to have the after party after that. So again, thank you so much. And we're looking forward to that. So one more gratefulness, says Nate Rubin. Haha, grateful for my wife, Tiaja, this show, and the ability to live moment to moment. Victoria, how challenging is it for you to live moment to moment?
So I guess as of lately, it has been a little tricky just because for anyone who plans like long-term, you're planning long-term and you do live in your moments. Well, actually, you know what? I take that back. I do appreciate the ability to live moment to moment as well, because when the first thing that comes to mind is when I was in the Navy, you go through really hard times in the military, and like you're away from all your comfort and all your things that make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. So when I have times in moments where I'm feeling really comfortable and really happy, I think this is a really lovely moment to be in, and I wasn't in previous times. And then even like when you're stressful, or even like if you're going through, like if you're feeling a lot of overwhelming because you're thinking of the future, it's like, okay, everything's good right now in this moment. And then you reflect, literally where you're sitting at, and then you don't have to like worry too much for at least for a minute, and then you can continue. So yeah, going back and forth between like planning for the future, but then also living in the moment, it is really special because some people don't, and they're just like in a constant state of stress and worry. And if you are living in that way, then you can't live moment to moment because you're just you have so much anxiety and all those kind of emotions going through. So yeah.
I love that explanation.
A little back and forth.
Yeah. Well, I like that explanation. I've found like sometimes it's challenging. We look at things in the past and then we think about like, oh, I could have done this better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Or why didn't I do this?
Or reflection or feedback or thinking about different moments.
Yeah. And then with the future, I've always found it's kind of like, well, what's going to happen here? You're like anticipating, you have expectations. And as Victoria says, like just really letting go of what happened before, what's going to happen later, which we don't know. And then just being in the present moment. You know, I've been reading a little bit up with a gentleman named Dr. Benjamin Hardy. And he's got some really good books. And he talks a lot about how, psychology was always your past defines your present, which makes your future. And he flipped it over on edge. He said, your present defines your past. So the frame that you are in the moment, how you are in the present is defining and framing what happened to you in the past. It's the other way around.
Okay. Like kind of like lessons learned in a way.
It's like lessons learned. Yeah, that's part of it. And then the other half of it is going into the future. So now when you look at the future, it's like, okay, you're doing things to be your future self. So you're also contributing to your present by becoming your future self. So like it goes kind of deep, but I just like the idea that our past doesn't define who we are today.
Right.
It's like,
no, 100%. I agree with that. Yeah.
Right.
You're so always growing, always changing.
Who we are today is really what defines and frames what happened to us in the past. Because I could have had something happen to me in the past. Let's say somebody beat me up or I lost a fight, right? Now, how am I going to frame that? Oh, woe is me. I could be victim, or I can frame it like, you know, I learned not to talk shit to people that are bigger than me.
Yep,
and I learned to keep my mouth shut. So like, how do you frame that, right? I just framed something recently. My mom was a little bit obsessive with cleanliness, right? And so I would say, oh, my mom would hover over me or everything always had to be clean. Well, I just shared that with somebody recently in real estate. And I was like, you know, my mom's obsessiveness over being clean is actually a positive attribute that I'm bringing into the real estate world. When I'm working with my listing clients, right? When I'm working with my buyer clients and looking around, it's like, oh, it's almost like it raised that standard for me when I'm out there in the marketplace. So thanks, Mom, for making me keep my underwear drawer perfectly straight.
I think it's a good trait to have. That benefits everybody.
Making me wipe off the toothpaste in the sink all the time, right? I love it. So, Victoria, you mentioned a little bit about the Navy.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
So I was in the Navy. I joined after high school. I was in high school in 2014. I joined and I lived in San Diego and I lived in Japan.
Oh.
And so that was amazing. And so then so pretty much between the two locations, went on a few deployments. Okay. And that's actually where I met my husband in Japan because so I was in the Navy, he was in the Marines, and then we both like moved to San Diego together in that kind of way. So that was a cool experience. Yeah. Went to Guam, South Korea, and I had a lot of cool experiences that way.
I like that.
Yeah, I loved living in Japan. So if you haven't been to Japan yet, definitely put it on your to-do list. Amazing country.
I love that. So tell me, like, when you joined the Navy, like, what was the catalyst? What made you go and sign on the dotted line? Like, why would you do that?
Well, a couple of reasons. Well, it was actually my mom's initial idea.
Okay.
But the main thing that got me through was having my education paid for. And so because of the military, I was able to get an associate's degree, a bachelor's degree, and a master's degree debt-free. And I still have some left over if I wanted to continue my education that way. Yeah. And that's not even including certifications and like just like the overall benefits that you get in the military, like really set you up for the future, especially in Illinois. We have really great benefits in Illinois.
Look at that.
So that's why I people don't love Illinois. I love Illinois. I'm actually originally from Arizona.
Are you really?
Mhm.
Like born?
I was born in Michigan.
Yeah.
And then, so I guess I'm come back to my Midwest roots, but I moved in second grade to Arizona. I lived in Arizona and then lived in San Diego, Japan, and then decided to live in Illinois.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I like the 4 seasons in the snow. I like to snowboard. So
I love the 4 seasons in the snow.
Yeah.
You know what I love? I love the fact that you appreciate what's going on and the opportunities that are in front of you.
Mhm.
And what I really appreciate is the service to this country, because that is so important.
Mhm.
We tend to forget that. You know, there's this theory about like world wars and different outbreaks will happen like on a 90-year cycle.
Mhm.
Have you ever heard that?
Yes, I have.
So because what's happened is people are all dead from the previous war.
And
So
they
now,
forget.
right, we forget. I mean, what could we possibly relate to when it comes to wars, right? Yeah,
Mhm.
I have friends that went to Afghanistan. I have friends that went to Iraq. Of course, I have friends that were on the DMZ border of North and South Korea. Talking about like a big world war, though, like World War II, everybody's dead.
Mhm.
We're in that next cycle. And some say it could be the next cycle for something else to come. I don't know. And that's not what we're here to talk about. But the point is, I super appreciate that this woman here stood up and said, yeah, I'm going to go serve the country. And at the same time, she's getting massive benefits. And then she's becoming a positive contributor to society because of that. So now it's just like a positive snowball effect. That's what we're all about here, right?
Exactly.
I love
that
it.
Nails it. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, and if you just joined us, we are on Live Beyond Default Livestream, episode number
58.
This is Victoria. I'm Dave. And if you're watching us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, thank you. And if you're here live with us, we appreciate you, because I know some of you have a little tab open in the background and the sound down, and you're at your desk and you're listening to this, and maybe your boss doesn't know, but your boss would be proud of you because you're doing something good for yourself. So thank you for joining us. Dawn Block says, thank you for your service to this country. Thank you, Dawn. Appreciate you being on here. So Victoria, authenticity, huh?
Yes. Actually, to start off authenticity, I actually have a question for you.
Oh, a question for me. Remember this thing too.
Yeah.
Got it.
So actually, I have a few questions.
Cool.
So what does authenticity mean to you?
What does authenticity mean to you? I believe it's so it's being congruent with your thoughts and your words and your actions. I believe it's coming from your essence, mostly without a filter. It's being your true self. It's not putting a mask on or acting differently around certain people. Now, obviously, we're going to act different, right? We might be even acting differently.
Depends on who you're around in a way.
Yeah. But it's great. I'm glad that you brought that. You know, she said earlier, she's like, can I ask you some questions? I'm like, yeah, sure you can. So I appreciate that, because usually people don't ask me questions on the show, but
that's when we'll switch up today. We'll be able to go back and forth.
Yeah, so I think authenticity is really important. I truly believe that it's just being congruent with your thoughts, your words, and your actions, and really just coming from your true self. It's being who you really are. Yeah,
I definitely emphasize with that, like being your true self and always taking actions until whatever that feels right for you. Because it's your own life to live, as like, you know, they say trendy, like you're the main character in your life, and it's up to you to do what you want to do and what makes you happy, and then prioritizing that happiness and whatever that might be for someone. So
tweet that, social media, Sarah. I love that.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
And so I guess another question to follow up with that is like, what does it feel like to not be authentic? Because to be authentic actually takes work. It's a little bit harder because we have a lot of like societal pressures from people, or familial pressures, like from your friends. So like, what does it feel like to not be authentic, so like that, what's that feeling feel like? And what might people be feeling like right now if they're not in their authentic self?
To be not authentic, it's a wonderful question. It's to have an app open in the background that's always draining your energy. It's forcing things. It's force versus power, as opposed to coming from your true power. It's like having to force something, whether it's a relationship, whether it's a business deal, whether it's wanting to do a habit in your life. So I think personally, it's harder to be authentic up front, but once you do it, it's so much easier.
Yeah, like figuring out what is authentic to you. And you might not even know yet until you try various things. And then you might be like, oh, I enjoyed that aspect of whatever experience I just went through. And you don't know until you try. So, which is a big part of the authenticity journey that everyone should be going on, is like finding out. And you can have a, preconceived notion or like judgment
preconceived lotion. That's another one. Tweet that one, social media, Sarah. That's going to be our new line. It's going to be called preconceived lotion.
I'm here for it.
I love it.
You can patent that. Well, to me, like, to feel not authentic, I would feel like a lot of unhappiness is a feeling of not feeling authentic. It's like a weight on your chest, the weight on your shoulders.
Yeah.
And it's just constantly there because you can't get it off your chest. You can't talk about certain things that are, and we're going to say authentic like so many times this conversation, obviously, because that's on brand. But it's just like not being able to have conversations about what makes you happy. So you feel alone. You feel like you're not surrounded by people that you enjoy. Like there's a lot of like negative feelings to not being authentic. So it's very encouraged to figure that out, what that might look like for some people, and then actively pursue what that is for each individual. It's like that heavy weight where it's like you can't have those conversations with anybody, and so you hold that piece of you inside of you, essentially. So that was a piece of not feeling authentic. So if you feel like that, definitely some inner work to do, figuring out how to manage your time, your priorities, and different hobbies, maybe, and interests, exploring those.
I like that. And I like the idea of, I like the metaphor that you used about like carrying that weight.
Mm-hmm.
So really think about it. Like we all have that. And it really is a weight. It's hard. It's like always having to have a filter, right? It's like having to think about what you say before you say it all the time. Or it's having to act differently around certain people compared to others.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean, when we say authentic, we're not talking about walking around with our middle fingers in the air saying, I do what I want and F everybody else. That's not what we're saying, right? With authenticity, I believe, this is just my opinion, intentionality.
Oh,
right?
100%, yeah.
There's intentionality behind it. We're not just being authentic. I'm not wearing certain shirts or, this beard. Like take this beard, for instance, right? Which is like a total fluke. I never even know I could grow one. People still ask me about it. I still look in the mirror and I'm like, what? Like, is that really you, Dave? Right? I'm like the only dude that I'm the only 53-year-old guy that looks 43, but that now has a beard to make himself look older instead of younger.
Switch up.
I'm like the only dude that does that, right? Unless you're 25, then you have a beard like this. But it's like, to me, this is being authentic. Not because I'm a beard guy, but it's like I just it started to grow.
But does that feel good for you to have that beard? Like, do you really like having your beard?
I'm going to keep it for a year and I'm going to shave it.
Okay.
So I did it since March.
All right.
And I'm going to shave it next March. So really, it's a pattern break.
Okay.
That's all it was.
A little switch up.
There's intentionality behind it. It's not just, oh, I'm walking around with this, or, oh, look at me. It's like, no, there's actually intention behind things that we're doing. And we're not all perfect. We're trying the best that we can, right? We're doing the best that we can. But I think that Victoria hit it right on the head with authenticity there. Great question.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
so
then,
we're going to challenge everybody else out there too. Like, look in the mirror and ask yourself,
that's actually one of my questions for the crowd is like, why can't you be your authentic self and what's holding you back? And then whenever I kind of mention that to someone, I ask them like, what's the voice in the head that's giving you grief? Like, what voice is it that you're hearing? Is it your family? Is it a friend? Is it someone who's a bully to you maybe? So if you figure out who that voice is and you really think, wow, that voice is my dad.
Yeah.
And why is my dad controlling my life in this way right now?
Yeah.
So that can be that can be really like a breakthrough in a way where it's like, who am I trying to live for? Is it social media? Is it the public? Is it who I might talk to at a grocery store, if you figure out like, who is it that you're so worried about?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, do you really care about their life? And do you really want to live your life based on their opinion? Because like everyone has different experiences. So that's a really thoughtful exercise for people to think of, like the voice that's giving you grief. Like, and then does it really matter? And if that voice was gone, would you change?
The voice that's giving you grief.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, we got a regular guest on the show, right? Who wants Victoria to be a regular guest on the show? I know I do. She brought up something that was really important, though. The voice in your head and who are we trying to impress, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when we're growing up, we have many people that are affecting our lives, right? And they're saying things and they're putting things in our head that's lasting for many, many years.
Mm-hmm.
So think about parents or siblings.
Or church.
Church.
People are religious, okay. And that's a probably a heavy one for most people. One. Yeah.
So church, parents, teachers, neighbors. Think of all these different people, right? Now here's something that's funny. Like, let's just pretend that you are you have the voice in the head of your mom. Mm-hmm. Okay. And you're trying to impress her. Mm-hmm. Now, the interesting thing is her mom, my mom, all of our moms, if we're trying to impress her or whoever it is, our mom is probably not living her life. Yeah. So now we're trying to impress.
Then they're projecting in different ways. And they might have been projecting when you were upbringing or like whatever it was in that moment that like stuck in you. They probably were going through their own problems.
They were going through their own. So now we are trying to impress somebody else or live up to somebody else. Yeah. That person is not really living their life because they're living their life of their parents or somebody else. So now it's like, whose fucking life are we even living?
That's really good.
Right?
Yeah.
Think about it. You spin out on these things. You know, that is one thing I got to say. This is my anniversary week of 3 years ago. I left my career of 20 plus years and I was in B2B selling boxes, tape, stretch wrap, and different items like that to local businesses. And October 30th of 2020 was my last day. And when I got into real estate, that was a big step for Dave being his authentic self. Now, am I still trying to find myself every day in real estate? Of course. At the same time, it's like I'm in a space every day where I could be myself. Mm-hmm. And I really do like that. Mm-hmm. When I have somewhere to go, whether it's an electronic dance music festival or something personal, my clients understand. I have a client that wanted to see a place, second showing that we're about to get under contract. He wanted to see it this morning and they said 9:30. I said, I can't. I've got a commitment. Can we do 10:15? And both of them were like, okay. Like excellent. They understood that I had a commitment. And I appreciate that so much. Like they understood, but that was me being authentic, not saying, oh, well, I didn't make up anything. I just said, hey, I got a commitment. Mm-hmm. Can we do 10:15? Is that okay? And they were cool about it. So I just wanted to share that with everybody because it's like my anniversary week. Last week was, but I like to.
And you're still happy with your decision. 3 years later.
I don't know how I did it for that long, being in the box business. Oh my gosh. But it did me well. I learned a lot and it paid me really well too. So, but that was definitely not my authentic self. I was out of alignment there. So yeah, whose life are we living? Ask yourself that. Yeah. Look in the mirror, talk to yourself and listen to those voices, right? As Victoria said, like whose voice is in your head? Is it mom's voice? Is it a teacher's voice? Is it a church member's voice? Is it an uncle's voice? Whoever's it is.
Yeah. And then really think, are they like you said, are they their authentic self?
No.
So you should hold back because they're not even being back. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, do you have more questions, Victoria?
I do.
Oh, great.
So there's like a kind of like a follow-up. It's like, so on the same kind of question, it's like, what are your fears? What's the worst case scenario to being your true self? But then also, if that's the worst case, now what's the best case? And then weighing which one might end up being better, especially if like the best case is being accepted and the best case is having that companion. Like, and then another thing to like touch on eventually was like about like love interests and partners. Like you want to start with your authentic self.
Right.
You don't want to be a fake person and then they find that out later on, and then it's like they don't like you for who you are. So if you're
especially in the beginning, right?
Especially in the beginning, that's super important.
Yes.
And
Look
so
at her,
that's
huh?
the best case. So like if you're your authentic self and you love yourself and you find someone in that when you're going through those moments, then that's just going to keep on. You don't have to like surprise them later on down the line, like with negativity, because they already knew who you were from the beginning. And then you just get better with age.
Oh, I'm getting better with age already. So that was like 5 questions, Victoria.
It was, but we don't have to talk about fears and worries.
Let's go back to the first one. What's the first one?
Oh, so what are your fears? And then what's the worst case scenario to being your true self? I guess that's, yeah, we could talk about that.
Maybe the fears, I think the fear as being like tribal and growing up in being tribal societies from the beginning, right? The fear is always not being accepted or being ousted by the tribe, right? I think that's always and recognizing how important that we're not going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I know it's really hard to believe that everyone doesn't love me. I mean, I know that's tough to believe, but guess what? There's a lot of people that just don't get along with me. And I totally understand. You know what? I wouldn't get along with me sometimes. So it's not just you. It's not just other people. It's me too. Yeah. Right. So yeah, I think the fear of just being rejected.
Yeah. And then so like then I countered that with like, so you know, the worst case is like not having family, not having friends, like people who just can't accept you for who you are.
Yeah.
Do you really want those people in your life? Do you want that to be your tribe? They make you unhappy. They make you feel like shit. And so then you want to take the actions to be around people who make you happy and uplift you. Like if you're constantly around negativity, like that's miserable. Yeah. And so if those miserable people are the ones that are like cutting out, they're almost like doing you a favor, and you'll figure it out if you want to. Like, of course, that's like easier. I guess that's easier said than done. Being authentic is hard. And because you have to fight a lot of, depending on what your authenticity might be about, it could fight against stigmas, and it can be taboo. But then you might, the best case would be you have accepted, and then you're surprised by like people are like, that's cool. That's fine with me. Yeah. So sometimes you are surprised by being open and honest. And then that weight that we talked about that people have, it's lifted.
Yeah.
And then you because I get myself worked up all the time.
No,
I get all the time.
You're perfect.
I get nervous before meeting new people and because I never know how a conversation might lead. And I'm always pleasantly surprised. And that's been, I don't know if you ever give a shout out to like engaged speakers, but like that's been an example for me, like just talking about what I do and having great feedback and a lot of support. Like no one had, like that's been a pleasant surprise. And I worked myself up for no reason, like
no reason. And Victoria, now that you said that, share with the audience and the camera on our shorts. What do you do?
So, I guess I probably should introduce myself like that.
What do you do for work?
So I am a matchmaker for men and women in the local Chicago area, as well as a dating coach for men. But my firm is different in a way because I also specialize in non-traditional relationships nationwide. Non-traditional meaning like polyamorous relationships, open relationships, swinger lifestyle relationships, anything under the term of ethical non-monogamy. I specialize in that, and I'm the first certified matchmaker with that specialization.
Stop it.
Yeah, so I'm starting
ethical non-monogamy.
Yeah, short for E&M.
E&M, but there's some more.
That's a whole. We'll have to dive into that.
Yeah. So why? What made you? Were you like 5 years old and playing with what? I'm not going to assume you played with dolls, right? Playing with cars, whatever you played with when you were younger. And did you just like, where did this come from? Like, I love the idea about matchmaking, right? Mm-hmm. I love the idea about dating coach. You know what I really like the idea about? Being upfront. Yes. I have found, and I'm going to say this, and you might agree. I mean, we don't really know each other. So she might agree or she might not. I think I've always found with me where just take 20 people, right? Mm-hmm. Out of 20 people that I meet, 15 of them are like, who's this guy? Like, I don't want to be around him, right? 4 are kind of on the fence. And then there's one that like, you know what? I get him.
Make a good connection.
I see his deal. He's coming from a good place. Cool. And we're aligned. And what I find, especially in the masculine, feminine. I'm not going to say male, female, because masculine, feminine could be two guys and it could be two women. So I'm just going to use that masculine, feminine dance.
Okay.
So much. You want some water?
Sure.
Yeah. Bring that water over here. So there's so much of it. There we go. The water and the Red Bull in the morning. Look.
Hashtag Ghost Lifestyle.
So think about it. Think of the front that we're putting when we meet people.
Yeah.
And it's not fair. It's not fair to camera. It's not fair to ourselves, and it's not fair to other people.
Yeah.
Like putting your best self in front of others right off the bat is a gift for them. It's almost kind of like creepy and deceptive in a way if you're showing up to other people and you're not being your true self. Mm-hmm. Think about that.
Yeah.
Like I've had people say to me before, oh, that was a little bit over the edge what you said to them. And it was like, no, that was just being me. Like I'm playing, I'm bantering, right? I'm on a playground right now. And if somebody reacts in a way that they don't like what I said, I can tell by their face and I can tell by their body language and I'll lay off. Like I know that I will always cross the line just a little bit, but then if I need to, I'll pull it back, right? Because I'm always going to respect other people. But really think about that. It's like, whether it's in sales or relationships with your kid, relationships with a partner that you're attracted to, whoever it is, like if you're not showing up, being authentic, you're kind of hiding shit.
You're doing a disservice, yeah, to yourself and to them.
And that's just not fair. And I think that is a challenge now because people aren't used to that. So I always say, what you see and what you hear from me is what you get. And that's why a lot of people won't get along with me. I'm the exact same person here or at home earlier today or on a Friday night or when you meet me at Engaging Speakers.
Yeah.
I'm the same dude. Like this is what you're going to get all the time.
Yeah.
And I think that people have a hard time with that because it's like, oh, she's this or he's this. It's like, no, that's how I am all the time. Like I'm not fronting right now to be a certain way. And then I'm going to like turn around. It always reminds me of that story. Oh, he was so nice when I met him and this and that. And I'm like, yeah, and then what happened? It's like, yeah, he was so nice in the beginning. This person was so this in the beginning. And then what happened? They turned. They became their true selves. Right?
Right.
So talk to me.
So the idea came to me when we were road tripping in Iceland on our honeymoon. And we just happened to be road tripping on our honeymoon in Iceland. Yes.
Cool.
I was actually going through my own little quarter life crisis, if you will.
Quarter life crisis. I like that.
I had just finished my master's and I got an MBA in business and I wanted to start my own business, but I didn't know what yet. And so then I saw a screenshot going around a few girl groups of this matchmaker looking for singles for her clients. And I was like, that would be a pretty cool gig. You bring more love into the world. You're making connections. It's a cool service. You can do hybrid version of it. You can be remote. You can do as much in-person stuff as you want. So I was like, okay, awesome. So the next thing I did I did some research and I interviewed other matchmakers. It was aligning great. And then upon further discovery, I noticed that a lot of matchmakers were turning down people who were not traditional. So like people, those who were kinky, those who were non-monogamous, those who were into anything that was in that kind of realm, non-traditional. And I was like, well, I would take those people on. Yeah. And then I have experience with non-monogamy myself and how successful it can be and the communities that come along with it. And I'm definitely enthusiastic about it. And I encourage a lot of people to give it a try. Yeah. Because there's situations where you can just go in and just view it and then leave. And you can have opinions and you can kind of check out the realm, if you will, and the safety of like your own home if you're single or with your partner. But even then, like in general, like there's a documentary on Netflix it's a series called Explained. And there's an episode on monogamy, and it's the science backing reasons why humans are terrible at being monogamous.
And I've heard theories about that before. And what I like is that
But it's also not for everyone. I'll just say that too.
it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you came from a non-judgment point of view. So you have an MBA.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a quarter life crisis. Oh, I feel so bad for you with the violin there, the quarter life crisis. Oh my gosh. But that's self-reflection, right? You're starting to reflect. A lot of people don't do that ever. So I commend that and I admire that. That's super cool. Has the entrepreneurial spirit, is looking at other matchmakers and seeing what they're doing. Hey, that could be kind of cool. Checking them out. And then all of a sudden seeing like some of them, there's this need, there's a demand, there's a market for some of the non-traditional wants, desires in matchmaking, and the traditional matchmakers were saying no.
Yep.
So now Victoria over here says, hey, there's a market. Why don't I go after that one? Now that's smart.
Exactly.
And talk about being non-judgmental. Because that's what that is.
Yeah.
Right?
You're open, very, very open-minded to all sorts of dynamics and stories, and you're there to just not judge people for what they want, because it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah.
And
it's
and
not
then what
everyone's
other people
cup of tea.
Yeah, but I can't agree that I love what everyone else does too, but I can do what feels good for me.
Yeah.
And people might say the same thing for me too. And you go back and forth in that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay. So now let's get into it even more, right? Mm-hmm. So we're talking like multiple partners here.
Yeah.
It could be.
It could be.
It could be. Okay. And
either full-on intimate loving relationships, or more like friendships, or more like every once in a while experiences, or anything like that. So like the best case scenario is being a part of communities and then doing exactly what you want to do.
Yeah.
Okay. And pretty much the emphasis on it is like the ethical piece is having everyone's consenting and then everyone's aware.
Of course, we're all adults.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. And everyone's aware. Everyone's upfront.
Everyone's upfront, and the authenticity piece, like you are who you are, you know what you want, and use a lot of like inner work. It's like you figure out, even in the lifestyle, essentially, as an example, like what dynamics you're into and what you're not, and what feels right, and like how open you are, or how many or if you need boundaries set in place. It's a whole figuring out thing, but you're authentic to yourself because you do what feels good for you, and you have yourself and your partner's best interest.
I like that.
Yeah.
And I like being I'm not going to necessarily agree with everything. And that's what I love too. Mm-hmm. We don't have to agree or like everything that people do. But what we can do is understand them. And what we can do is recognize and appreciate where people are coming from, whether you like some things or not. Like it's usually you have to deal with things inside yourself. Mm-hmm. If you're not accepting of others, it's usually something internally.
Exactly. And so I have another piece where it's like, what's the best case scenario when you become your authentic self? So I made a little list of things of what happens when you are your best authentic self.
Victoria with the lists.
Yes, I have a few more. So it's like you have more friends, you have more relationships, you have more experiences, you get acceptance from the right people.
Yeah.
You can receive deeper levels of love for yourself and for others. You have better communication, and you make more connections. So those are all the plus
I like
sides
that
of
list.
Being authentic.
I like that list.
Being authentic leads to a better love life and just better friendships as well.
Who wants better love life and better friendships?
Always.
We all do. I mean, what are we even here for? Yeah. So it's just like, I mean, we could talk about this for hours, right? And we're not going to, because we usually keep it around an hour, but there's a lot of things. So what about those that would say, hey, I don't want my wife, husband, partner getting emotionally involved or talking to somebody else about intimate things, mm-hmm. or about like deep shares, because mm-hmm. I feel like it's emotional cheating. What about that?
So the people who feel that way, that is more the polyamorous community. That is when you have that emotional connection with someone. That's when you know the depths of them. That's when you have a full-on relationship. You're going on dates. You're having these experiences. You might be traveling together.
Okay.
And so if you're not into that, then you might be more in an open / swinger lifestyle relationship.
Okay.
Because you create those boundaries of like what's best for you. Like, so for like communication specifically, you might just want to be in group chats only, just so you're aware of the conversations.
Okay.
Or you could just say like, it's a communication piece. Like, what does that person need?
Mm-hmm.
And can I be okay with that?
Yeah.
And if it's not, then I can put up boundaries that protect myself and my heart.
That's it. You just said it right there. You could put up boundaries that protect yourself and your heart. I love that. That was said so eloquently. And that's the piece right there. When it comes to relationships, it's setting boundaries. It's setting boundaries for yourself.
Yep.
It's setting boundaries with your partner. I mean,
and it's for them to respect those boundaries that you put in place. But because you don't.
And what if they're not respecting it? What do you do?
Then you have to work through that.
Punish them?
No.
Do we punish them, Victoria?
Yeah, you punish them.
What do we do?
Well, that's when you have to get into like the root cause of the thing. It's like, does that person respect you? It becomes a respect thing, because if your partner doesn't respect you, that's an issue in itself, and that has to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so if your partner loves you and respects you, they're going to do and work around your happiness and what makes you happy, but also what makes them happy, and coming with a balance that works for both parties. And if it doesn't, and just like traditional relationships, it might not work out. And it depends on how deep the problems are rooted and how problematic it could be. But almost anything can be talked through.
Got it. And I think that's true. Almost anything can be talked through. And why don't we just have like regular talks when you think about it? Is it so hard?
It's hard for people to communicate. I think that's the.
Why is it hard for people to communicate?
Well, that's what I'm really thankful for between my husband and I. Our communication. I've told him literally everything and then some. And as long as you're open to receiving it, and then no matter what your partner or loved one might plant on you, and you're accepting to, have it in your mind and process it, and then go on from there and still accept whatever that might be.
Right.
You can grow a lot from that, because that's vulnerability, which is also something that I talk about in these notes. Is like, a lot of people might think it's kind of like an intimacy piece in a way, where it's like, that's another question. It's like, it kind of even spins with authenticity. Like, what does intimacy mean to some people? Some people means just sex. Sometimes people think sex is spiritual, but sometimes intimacy, like to me, is being vulnerable.
I love that.
So if you can be deeply vulnerable with someone, that is very intimate. And when they know you and know your history, and there's nothing that you said that would scare them away.
Yeah.
That is a relief. You're like, there's nothing more I can tell you. This is all me. And you still are here, and you're still loving me, and we can still have this open communication and have fun. Like, that's another authentic piece. Like, you shared this vulnerable side of you with someone that you love.
Yeah.
And they're still here for it. That's a really great feeling to have. That's the best feeling.
Don't we all want that feeling?
Yeah.
Yeah. I really appreciate that open communication. Like, that really makes a difference. And it doesn't mean like, excuse me, you're necessarily spilling all your whatevers the first time you meet somebody. But as you see things progressing, I mean, it's in sales, it's in work relationships, it's in everything, right? Like, you're going to set boundaries, which is super important. You've always got to set boundaries. And having open lines of communication with your friends, your family, your intimate partners, your not intimate partners, like, just right. And even like with friends, or like you said, people in your crew, right? Having that open boundary, and then being able to share feedback, and then being able to receive the feedback without like being defensive.
Exactly.
Right?
Not being defensive, like not taking it personally, because it's what this person needs in this relationship moving forward. And you work with it or you don't, and you have the opportunity to leave. You don't have to do anything you don't want to do.
Yes. You don't have to do anything you want to do. That, my friends, is freedom. Think about that. When it comes to your job or relationships or things that you're doing in life, you always have a choice.
Yeah.
And
you might not think you do, but
a lot of us don't think we do. You know what? We have very many first world problems going on here. Okay. Trust me, because I've been in the first world problems too. We create all this stuff going on in our head, and oh, people say to me sometimes, well, Dave, you don't have kids. I'm like, you know what? I know people that have kids that are.
Love that for them.
Yeah. There's again, it's just like so many different judgments. And it's like, yeah, we don't necessarily know what other people are going through. And we're not necessarily in their shoes, but we're doing the best to empathize, right? And so there's the golden rule, right? Is treat others like you want to be treated.
Yes.
And then there's the platinum rule, which is treat others like they want to be treated. So it's treating people not like you want to be treated. It's treating people like they want to be treated.
And how they like to be validated.
And you know what a simple way to do that is? Ask.
Yes.
Just ask.
Never assume. Just have that conversation. And that's actually kind of something that I've been doing a lot in my adulthood. It's like,
look at you in your adulthood.
I know, it's recent.
In your quarter life crisis.
I know, it's new out here for me. It's having like just asking questions that I'm curious about and might be intrigued about, and I also kind of assume they might not answer the question, but almost every time they're happy to answer it. And people have shared really deep, intimate things with me, and just out of my curiosity. And I was like, wow, thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah.
So just pretty much asking like what people, and some people don't even know what they like either too. So it's also a little bit sometimes about figuring it out. But I guess short answer is everyone likes to have their feelings validated in case someone needs a quick little answer, and what that means for some people.
Yeah. Asking those it just makes sense though, asking those questions. And again, when you think about it, that's the same thing like with whatever your career is or with friends, right? I mean, I'm constantly asking questions in the real estate realm, and it's not just questions like how many bedrooms or how many bathrooms do you want, right? That's more of the head here and the surface. It's like, what do you imagine doing in your new home? Who do you imagine having at your new home? How does it feel when you're coming home from work or from vacation? Like, what do you want that experience to be?
Yeah. And then to also backtrack to being authentic, like you want your clients to be authentic with you so you can give them the best product and the best house. Because if they're not telling you what they actually want out of a house and they're just trying to be like, oh, the schools are good. Like, okay, you want more than just good schools, right?
Yeah,
you're going to spend a lot of time here.
Yeah.
And then going about it that way. And then I guess the same thing with being like a matchmaker is like, yes, be your authentic self with me. I'm going to make notes and I'm going to find you a compatible partner with all of this in the front line. So like the things that you're afraid to talk about on a first, second, third date, you can tell me, I can let them know and they can accept it or not.
Yeah. Yeah. Being upfront.
Easy. So that's like the hardest part too. Or like you have if you go on a date and it's not good because something came up that another person didn't like, having a matchmaker, you would already have that little piece of information out there, and then you don't have to worry about them knowing that.
Yeah.
So that's like the plugin for matchmakers. That's one of the valuable pieces of that.
That's the plugin for matchmakers. How do you make money being a matchmaker?
There's actually with being a matchmaker,
there's
many
is there like
routes.
A system? Is there like a system that you follow?
It's a service basically, and pretty much you have a client, and you do a background check on them, and you interview them, and you pretty much do a big discovery on them. Find out what they're looking for. You have intuition, and you have all these other things that you and also like the core values that are important, like religion, politics, and location, and willing to travel. It's like all these questions.
I'd say location, religion, and politics. No, you're like religion, politics. Go on.
And so, if you want those compatibility pieces, then I would make notes of that, because some people are open, some people are not, and pretty much the next step would be, you have you as a client, and then you go out and recruit people who fit that criteria.
So how do you recruit people that fit that criteria? Is it like online? Are you meeting people when you're out?
It's a big
Are
collaboration pieces.
Hey, Jeff, like I know of this woman, Mary, that like fits your 5 compatibility pieces that you seem to be all about. Do you want to meet her? Like, how's that work?
Yeah, so pretty much it's me. It's a piece of it is like collaboration.
Okay.
So matchmakers have a wild collaboration piece. So like you can make connections with other matchmakers. Hey, do you have anyone that kind of matches this? And then it's either like collaborating with other matchmakers, it's reaching out to friends, it's reaching out to families, it's reaching out to colleagues, it's going to networking events, and you can go to curated networking events.
What's curated mean?
Very specific themed
networking events.
Networking events.
Yeah.
So like if you wanted someone who was in the medical field, because you're in the medical field, you go to a medical field networking event and try to meet people that way. And then you kind of know what might be, what kind of person they find attractive. And then you go and have that conversation with that person. And then you just kind of have it's lots and lots of conversations essentially. And then you also can post online. You can, and there's like, so you can do things in person. You can do things online, a little mix and match. And then people like, that's how you find people, essentially.
Interesting.
Networking.
Yeah. And you created a business around this.
Yeah.
What a world we live in.
Yeah.
What a life.
And does that process make sense?
I think it does.
Yeah. So it's different than apps where you're constantly swiping and maybe getting ghosted and maybe doing this, where also like as a matchmaker piece, you get feedback after dates if it doesn't go well.
Okay.
And so you get introductions, and that introductions means you get to meet. That's what that means. So with matchmakers, generally it's like a membership, and they're trying to it's like outsourcing your love life, literally. So if you don't want to swipe on the apps, if you don't want to go, like if you don't have the time, so pretty much a lot of it's like a lot of time as well. And so if you don't have the time, and I keep repeating myself, sorry about that.
It's okay.
You can use your time wisely, and then you have a matchmaker and their recruiters finding matches for you that would be compatible and that are generally like vetted. And they're also background checked and gun stuff like that.
I love this world that we live in. That's okay. You know what? We cram a lot into this show, and that's part of it. So is there anything, we're at the hour mark.
Yep,
it goes by really quick. You got to admit. So I wanted to ask you one more thing. Talk to me about your fitness.
My fitness.
Yeah. Aren't you like to lift weights?
Oh, yes. I'm a competitive bodybuilder.
See? Yeah. Oh, my fitness. Yeah, I can tell you do squats, girl. Come on.
Yes, I've done so far 2 bodybuilding competitions in the wellness category. Still very new.
Yeah.
So I probably will like to compete again next year, but so when you are on a prep, that's right. Matchmakers can weed through inauthentic people. That is very true.
I like that.
And so with like lifting, it's so being in bodybuilding competition, having prep, it's all encompassing.
Okay.
It's a lot of work, but it's very rewarding and it's a lot of fun, and it's a really cool experience anyways, just to know you can do hard things. And
we can do hard things.
And
who is that? Not Brene Brown. There's somebody that says that. It's a book that she wrote. We could do hard things. It's not the name of it, but it's in that book. If somebody knows that book, put it in there.
Yeah.
I can't think of the woman. Go on.
We can do hard things. And then also the mentality around it is like, I don't have to do this. I get to do this. So
there's another one. The nuggets at the end of the show.
Nuggets,
I don't have to do this. I get to do this.
It's an amazing opportunity. It's very challenging, but like knowing that you can spend several months being so strict and on point, choosing yourself every day constantly, and then getting rewarded at the end with being on stage and getting banned up. It's just so much fun. And then you start to build like a bit of competitiveness to it, and then you just want to keep better.
Yeah,
it's you against you every time.
I like that. You against you. There's no competition out there. It's always you against you.
Yeah, you can only compare yourself with your own pictures and your progress, because everyone's body's built differently. So that's another piece that's really great about bodybuilding. And then you make mistakes, and then you learn from them, and then you keep doing better, and then you just keep looking better.
It sounds a lot like personal growth and development.
Yeah, definitely.
That's what we're all about here.
We're all about.
Well, we're going to end on a high note, because this is definitely a high note, right?
Yeah.
Like we are in a really good spot here. And let's go over a couple. Oh, Jeff says there's no way Dave answered those off the cuff questions. Haha, that's funny. Don says congratulations. Jeff says matchmakers can weed through inauthentic people. Yes, very cool. And Ronka says great words of wisdom's greeting. Thank you, Ronka. We appreciate you being on the show. So yeah, we like to end the show the same way every time. Of course, we appreciate you watching live. Let us know if you have any questions or comments. Throw them in the feedback, or you could DM me. How do people get a hold of you?
You can email me at victoria@birdsofafeathermatchmaking.com.
Birdsofafeathermatchmaking.com.
Yes.
Victoria.
That'd be the best way to contact me, through my email.
Got it. So she's got a cool IG page. I do like your posts.
Yes, I also have an Instagram, Birds of a Feather MM. So short for matchmaking.
Oh, short for matchmaking.
And then I have another one. So that Birds of a Feather one is more about love and dating. And then I have another one specifically for E&M content called E&M Matchmaker.
Look at that. I haven't seen that one yet.
Yeah. The content's up and coming. So
the
don't judge.
content is up and coming.
Don't look too closely.
Look at her, huh? Oh, what a good life we live. So thank you again. Like, this was a great conversation. Again,
thanks for having me.
We really don't even know each other. And it was like, hey, I want to be on this live stream. And she's like, okay. So this is what it's all about, right? It's collaborating with cool people. It's sharing different ideas. And it doesn't matter like what industry that you're in. We're all human. We're all doing the best that we can with what we have. And just being open to others and being more accepting, right? There's so much tribalism and pointing fingers, especially now in the world. Like, I think if the more we understand people, the more that we're going to get along and the more that we're going to love people and we'll be able to respect them and recognize that, you know, we all put our pants on the same way, right?
Not everyone.
Okay. I like that.
For being technical.
I like that. All right. So what we always like to finish off with, Gabby Vargas had such a great piece of advice when she was on the show months ago. And she said to text somebody today, I'm thinking about you.
Oh,
so I challenge. Yeah, isn't that great?
I wouldn't love that.
Yeah. So everybody watching, listening, when you're done watching, listening, doing your thing, text somebody, I'm thinking about you. All right. So thank you for watching this episode. What episode was it?
58.
58 of Live Beyond Default Livestream. My name is Dave.
I'm Victoria.
Yeah, we really appreciate you being here. And this is the time. Can you do a heart with your... And until next time.
Until next time.
Make it a great day. Yep. Thank you.
No.
Awesome.
Very nice.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Yep. Message us if you have any questions.
Yeah.